What's up, family? Let me tell you something that has the establishment shaking in their boots right now. And the first check has cleared. Elon Musk has officially started writing checks. And let me tell you who the first target is. Lisa Murkowski, the worst rhino in the United States Senate, the senator who votes against everything you voted for, the senator who smiles in your face and then walks across the aisle to stab the America First agenda in the back every single time it matters. And Elon Musk just dropped, as you guys can see on the screen, $1.5 million to make sure she never gets away with it again. Now, I want you to understand what we're looking at here because this is not just about one senator and one cold state. This is about the entire rigged system that keeps establishment politicians in power, whether you want them there or not. And the system they use is called ranked choice voting. If you don't know what that is yet, please sit down and listen because this is the most important election integrity story of 2026. And it's happening in Alaska, of all places. And here's the situation. Ballot Measure 2 is going to be on a ballot in Alaska this November. And it's a straight up yes or no question. Do you want to keep ranked choice voting in open primaries, or do you want to go back to one person, one vote, like God and the Constitution intended? And the establishment is terrified. They are terrified because they know that without ranked choice voting, people like Lisa Murkowski cannot win. A Republican who votes against Trump 90% of the time cannot survive a normal primary where only Republicans vote. She needs the scam. She needs the system where your vote gets taken away from the person you actually wanted and handed to somebody else. That is not democracy. That is a hustle. And Elon Musk just put $1.5 million behind exposing the hustle. And I want to give you the full picture because this story has layers and the media is not going to tell it to you straight. The Anchorage Daily News reported that Musk gave $1.5 million last month to the Uhura Action Network, which is a political action committee based in Wisconsin. That PAC then turned around and gave $1 million to the Alaska Repeal campaign in late July. So the money is already on the ground. The campaign is already running ads and the establishment is already panicking. But here's what makes this so beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful. This is not just about money. This is about understanding that if you don't fix the rules, it doesn't matter who you vote for. You can vote for the greatest candidate in the world, but if the system is designed to redistribute your vote to someone else, you lost before you even walked into the booth. And that is exactly what ranked choice voting does. So let me break this down for you. Let me explain what this system actually is, why it's a scam, why Lisa Murkowski is the poster child for why we need to kill it, and what this $1.5 million check from Elon Musk means for the future of the Republican Party and the future of honest elections in this country. All right. So let's start with the basics because I know some of you are hearing ranked choice voting and your eyes are already glazing over it. Here's what it actually means in plain English. Here's what it is. Normally, when you go to vote, you pick one candidate, one person, one vote, one winner. That's it. That's simple. That's fair. You know who won and you know who lost, and nobody can argue about it. Ranked choice voting changes that completely. In Alaska, they force you to rank every candidate on the ballot. First choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, right? You have to rank them all. Then when they count the votes, if your first choice doesn't have enough votes to win, they don't just count your vote for who you wanted. They take your vote and they give it to the second choice. And if your second choice is out, they give it to your third choice. And your vote literally gets moved around like a chess piece until the system decides who wins. Now, pause for a second and think about that. You walked into that booth, you made a decision, you picked the person you thought was best for the job. And then the government looked at your ballot and said, actually, we think you should have picked someone else and handed your vote to a different candidate. That is not voting. That is an algorithm deciding elections. And here's the part that really gets me. The people who defend this system will tell you it's about consensus and building coalitions and getting rid of extreme candidates. But what it actually does is protect incumbents, right? It protects the people already in power because their name recognition in their donor network means they're more likely to be everyone's second or third choice, even if nobody actually wants them as their first choice. And that is exactly how Lisa Murkowski has survived. Let me tell you about Lisa Murkowski because she is the definition of a rhino. This woman was appointed to the Senate by her own father in 2002. She didn't even win her first election. Her dad gave her the seat. And ever since then, she has spent her entire career voting against the conservative movement. She voted to convict Donald Trump, our President Trump, in both impeachments. She voted against the Save America Act. She votes with Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer on everything that matters. She is pro-abortion. She votes for woke judges, as a lot of Americans would say. She supports the DEI agenda, and she does everything that Democrats want and then calls herself a Republican on paper. That's the track record that a lot of individuals see, a lot of Americans see based on her own actions, right? And somehow she keeps getting reelected in a state that Donald Trump won by 10 points. How does that happen? How does a state that votes for Trump by double digits keep sending a senator who votes against Trump every chance she gets? Ranked choice voting. That's how. In 2022, Lisa Murkowski was up for reelection and she should have lost. Alaska had a competitive Republican primary with multiple candidates, and under a normal system, the most conservative candidate would have won. But under ranked choice voting, she survived because Democrats and independents ranked her as their second and third choice. People who never wanted her in the first place got their votes handed to her after their first choices were eliminated. Her own party's voters didn't want her, but the system forced her on them anyway. And that is the whole point. That is why the establishment loves ranked choice voting. It lets them ignore what the voters actually want. It lets them stay in power even when the voters have rejected them. And now Elon Musk has decided to put his money where his mouth is and kill this thing once and for all. But here's what you need to understand about the politics of this. The repeal campaign tried this once before. In 2024, Alaskans put a repeal measure on the ballot and it lost by 743 votes. 743 votes out of over 340,000 cast. That is how close this was. And you want to know something interesting about that 2024 election? Alaska accepts ballots up to 10 days after election day. Don't take my word for it. Look on the screen. So the election happens, the polls close, and then for 10 days, they keep counting ballots that came in after the election. In 2024, 94,000 ballots were counted after election day. 55,000 of those were absentee ballots. The repeal lost by less than 750 votes. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the election was stolen because I don't have the receipts to prove that. But I will tell you that when you have a system that counts ballots for 10 days after the election and your 743 vote loss happens in that window, you have every right to be suspicious. And that is exactly why the repeal campaign is back with ballot measure 2 this November. And they are not playing around this time. Scott Pressler, right, who has been doing incredible work on the ground, registering voters and knocking on doors, has been all over this, as you see on the screen with his X posts. Trump has endorsed the repeal. Conservatives across the country are paying attention. And now Elon Musk has put real financial power, as you can see right here highlighted, behind it. $1.5 million is not pocket change. In a state like Alaska, where media markets are smaller and cheaper, that money goes a long way. It means ads, it means mailers, it means door knockers, it means the message gets out. And the establishment knows it. The group opposing the repeal has already raised over $5 million from the same outside MAGA donors who always fund these rigged systems, right? But here's the difference. The other side is fighting to keep a scam with their $5 million. We're fighting to restore honest elections, election integrity. The other side is fighting to protect the system that lets politicians ignore voters. We're fighting for one person, one vote. And that is a much easier message to sell when you have $1.5 million to spread it. All right. Now, let me zoom out and tell you what this actually means for the bigger picture, because this is bigger than one ballot measure in Alaska. This is a template, right? This is a template. This is the blueprint for how we can clean up elections across the entire country. Ranked choice voting is not just in Alaska. It's in Maine. It's in New York City. It's being pushed in Nevada and Colorado and Oregon. The left is trying to spread this system everywhere because they know it helps them win races. They would never win in a fair fight. But what Elon Musk just did proves something important. It proves that the money fight is not one-sided anymore. For years, the left had George Soros pumping billions into their machines. They have Mark Zuckerberg dropping $350 million in 2020 to flood swing states with mail-in ballots and drop boxes in election infrastructure grants that just happen to benefit Democrat turnout operations. They had every woke billionaire in Silicon Valley funding their causes, and the right was sitting there playing by Marcus of Queensberry rules, while the other side was using brass knuckles. And just to mention, with George Soros and his son Alex donated more than $400,000 to the Democratic National Committee during the 2018 midterms. They gave more than $1 million during the 2022 midterm election cycle. Campaign finance records show this year they have yet to give the DNC a dollar. George Soros, and this is the Wall Street Journal, August 1st, 2026, biggest donor of the Democratic Party that I mentioned, hasn't given the DNC a dollar. So what I am saying is that era is over. Elon Musk has decided that if the left is going to use their money to rig the system, he's going to use his money to unrig it. And that is exactly what this $1.5 million check is. It's a statement. It's a warning shot. It's Elon Musk telling every RINO and every establishment hack in Washington that their days of hiding behind rigged voting systems are numbered. And look, I'm going to be honest with you about something. I know there are people who will hear this and say, oh, great, another billionaire trying to buy elections. And I get that concern. I really do. Because money in politics is a problem. It creates corruption. It creates access that regular people don't have. It creates a system where the person with the most money usually wins. I understand that argument and I don't dismiss it. But here's the thing. We already live in that world. The left has been buying elections with billionaire money for decades. I just mentioned George Soros, as you guys can see right here on the screen, right? Has spent more on politics than most countries spend on their entire governments. Mark Zuckerberg single-handedly changed the election laws in 2020 with one donation. The left does not believe money in politics is a problem. They only believe it's a problem when conservatives do it. So I'm not going to tell you that Elon Musk is a savior or that billionaires are saints. But I will tell you this. If the other side is using their money to rig the game, I mean, what makes the Republicans not allowed to use their money to fix it? If Soros can spend $50 million, even though he's on a strike right now, and then give the DNC a dollar as of currently. But in the past, if Soros can spend $50 million to put radical prosecutors in office who refuse to enforce the law, then Elon Musk can spend $1.5 million to make sure Alaskans get honest elections. I think that's pretty fair, right? That is balance. That is how the game works when both sides actually show up to play, actually show that they're worth their salt. And here's the deeper lesson I want you to take away from this. Systems matter more than personalities. We spend years arguing about which candidate is better, which politician said what, which tweet was offensive, which debate performance was stronger. And all that time, while we were fighting about personalities, the other side was quietly changing the rules. They were changing how votes are counted. They were changing who gets to vote and when. They were changing the entire structure of elections so that even if you won for your party, let's say if you're a Republican, or you won the argument, you couldn't win the vote, right? So if you're individual that lobby your best interest, politician, happen to be a Republican, made the best argument standing up on the debate stage and showed they were worth their salt, like I said, they can win the argument, but they won't win your vote. And that is the genius of what they done. They didn't need to convince Americans to vote for their policies because their policies are unpopular, the left, right? They just needed to make sure that when Americans voted, their votes didn't count the way they thought they did. Ranked choice voting is the perfect example of this. They can't win a fair election with one person or one vote, so they created a system where your vote gets handed down to someone else. They can't win the argument, so they changed the math. And that is why this moment matters so much. By targeting ranked choice voting in Alaska, Elon Musk is not just helping one candidate or hurting one RINO. He is attacking the mechanism itself. He is saying, I don't care who the players are. I'm changing the rules so the game is fair again. And that is the only way this fight gets won. You can primary every RINO in the country. You can replace them with conservatives, but if the voting system is still rigged, the establishment will find a way to survive. and they'll make deals. They'll form coalitions. They'll use ranked choice voting to get Democrats and independents to elect them over your head. You have to kill the system itself. Get rid of it. You have to make elections simple again. One person, one vote, one winner, no algorithms, no redistribution, no 10-day ballot counting windows. Election day is election day. There's plenty of countries who have election day and they know who won that same day as election day. That's why it's called election day. But simple, honest, transparent elections. That is what ballot measure 2 is about, family. And that is what Elon Musk just put $1.5 million behind. So here's what I want to leave you with, family. I want to leave you with this. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like no matter who you vote for, nothing changes? I heard that plenty of individuals say it a lot in my own anecdotal experience. And I'm like, your vote do count. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. They're going to pick who they want. Have you ever looked at the results of an election and thought, that doesn't make sense because the candidate who seemed most popular somehow lost? That feeling you had, that frustration, that sense that something is off. You were right. It's not paranoia. It's not conspiracy theories. It's a rigged voting system. And ranked choice voting is one of the most effective tools they use to keep it rigged. And what Elon Musk just did proves that someone with real resources is finally paying attention to the mechanism instead of just the personalities. That is a shift. That is a turning point. And I want you to pay attention to what happens next. Because if ballot measure 2 passes in Alaska, it will send a signal to every other state that has ranked choice voting. It will tell them that the voters are waking up. And it would tell them that this scam is not going to survive public scrutiny. And it will force every politician who has been hiding behind this system to face the voters directly for the first time in years. And that, family, is how we take the country back. Not by screaming louder, not by fighting each other or tearing each other apart, but by fixing the rules so the game is fair again. Now, here's where I bring in some wisdom, right? We don't just talk about politics here, as you know, family. We talk about how to live right and think right in a world that's trying to confuse you every single day. And every single day, we are fighting a battle against ourselves to be overcame, to be a better every single day. Imperfect, but using that imperfection every day to strive to be better. That's perfect. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 1 says, the Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights. Find favor with him. Let me tell you what that means in plain English. In the ancient world, merchants would sometimes use 2 sets of scales. One set was accurate for when the inspector was watching. The other set was rigged to shortchange the customer when nobody was looking. They would sell you a pound of grain, but give you 14 ounces and pocket the difference. And God says that practice is detestable. He says rigging the measurement, cheating the system, stealing from people by changing how things are weighed, that is an abomination. Now think about what ranked choice voting is. It is a dishonest scale. You walk in thinking you're casting one vote for one candidate, but the scale is rigged. Your vote gets weighted differently depending on what the algorithm decides. You think you voted for candidate A, but the system counts it as a vote for candidate C. That is a dishonest scale, and God says he detests that. He says accurate weights, fair measures, honest systems. Those are what find favor with him. So when you go to the polls and you stand up for one person, one vote, you're not just being a good Republican. You are standing up for honest weights. You are standing up for fairness, and you're standing on the side of what God says is right. And for those of you who are not spiritual, here's the life wisdom. A rigged game is not worth playing if the rules are designed to make you lose no matter how well you play. The answer is not to play harder. The answer is to change the rules. And that's what this fight is about. It's not about left versus right. It's about fair versus rigged. And you cannot compromise with a rigged system. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot be both sides your way out of it. You have to tear it down and start over with honest weights. And that is the lesson of ballot measure 2. That is the lesson of Elon Musk's $1.5 million. And that is the lesson of every conservative who has ever felt like their vote didn't count. Now, let me ask you this in the comments. Do you have ranked choice voting in your state? And if you do, are you ready to fight to get rid of it? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button, share this video with somebody who needs to understand how the system really works. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications. And the only way to win is to understand the game better than they do. All right. So I'm gonna leave it there. It's not about the simple fact of building consensus, right? Because next time somebody tells you your ranked choice voting is about building consensus, it's not. It's about stealing your vote and calling it democracy. Spread the peace, love, and positivity. Let the love sweet seed the hate, family. I'll catch you next one. Peace.